What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess doing the mostest, Kivanshi, and guess what's happening? Obviously you saw the title, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol, Season 2 of the Walking Dead spinoff series. So obviously this season stars Norman Reedus as Daryl Dixon and Melissa McBride as Carol Pelletier. Now, reviewing this, I finally was like, oh, that's her last name? Like, at this point, like, they don't have last names. Like, if I don't know their last name in the show, I literally give them their, like, real last name. But, you know, hey, Carol, how you doing? Okay. Well, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol premieres Sunday, September 29th on AMC Plus, 10/9 Central. Okay, but if you got AMC Plus, you can probably get it at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, okay? 12 a.m. on the Pacific Coast, 1 a.m. for the mountain, okay? And 2 a.m. for Central. So if y'all about that life, if you really standing it, I know that was me for the ones who live. So if you're really standing it, those are all the ways in which you can watch this show. So let's get into this review. Okay, first and foremost, I did not see season 1. I don't even think I knew when it ever came out. But one thing that I like, if you're somebody who likes the Walking Dead series, I felt like I knew what was going on when season 2 started without having to go and watch season 1 all over again. So like I said, it stars Daryl Dixon and Melissa McBride. I do know the premise of everything is Norman ended up going to France for whatever reason during that whole Walking Dead spinoff thing of trying to find out where Rick went. You know, Michonne went looking for him. Daryl left. Everybody was feeling guilty for not doing enough when when he blew up the bridge and everything like that. And obviously, Daryl is Carol's best friend, her sounding board. Honestly, he's like one of the main people to tell her about herself to her face and force her to kind of face some things about herself that in other situations she can live behind a lie. She could tell other people lies that she sometimes ends up believing herself because she has to have it to be true in order to have some sense of like sanity about her. So that's kind of like the framework of what's happening. So what's actually going on in season 2? First, I want to start off with the cinematography of it all. I know that the spinoffs have taken a different approach with the way that they want the shows to look. So it definitely looks more like a silver screen production. Each episode is looking like crisp, like I'm in an IMAX movie theater. But something very distinct about the Book of Carol that I noticed, which is the difference between the ones who live, is that the Book of Carol kind of has, I can't even describe what type of camera you would use to make you feel this way, but it also gives me like live action video game when I look at it, versus the ones who live. I know they used actual like film DPs to do each episode, which is why the whole thing kind of like felt like a movie. Another thing that I noticed is there were huge complaints on The Walking Dead as far as like the lighting goes, and also in The Walking Dead everything was so flat and dreary and dry, which was a backdrop to the fact that the whole world is dying. So why would the sky and everything be like bright and sunny? Like there's no birds or anything like that anymore. Like everything is dying. And so of course the cinematography looked dead. Here in France, it's not as bright. There's a lot of browns and rust and the type of architecture and stuff that we see and the type of colors and stuff that we see. You know, I don't know if y'all have ever been to France or anything like that, but a lot of golds, a lot of like burnt orange, rust color, sienna, and stuff like that. So just very warm. but it's not like dead or flat. So you still get to see the characters' faces, but you also get to see all of like the backdrop and everything that's surrounding them. And because of how it's shot, whenever Daryl is on screen, and we all know how Daryl moves. I just saw TikTok on like how he moves, like not like a normal person. It feels like, wow, this will make a great video game or like a great arcade game. And I can absolutely see like his story, just his own spinoff, being a character in a game at like Main Event or something like that. Jeepers, if you like live in Chicago. Is Jeepers still even open? I don't know. But yeah, so it definitely felt more like that. Another thing that I like, again, I didn't see season 1, but I'm assuming they did the same thing. So I'm learning French. So I thought this was a great immersive experience. I thought it was a great immersive experience, and I thought it was a really smart choice to not have the fact that Daryl, the American, being in France, making the cast or the dialogue be reverted to English to please the audience. Now that's just me. I like the fact that a lot of the conversation, if not 50%, maybe 60% of the conversation in this country is in French and in their language. And so you really get to have like an immersive experience with how they how they experienced the end of the world and the way that they went off and tried to live a good life. One of the things that I noticed that was kind of like a stark difference between the Americans and the way that we saw Americans living versus the way that the people decided to live in France. It seems as if in France there was a little bit more effort to come together and try to keep establishments that will boost morale. So music is prevalent in this place. Dance is prevalent in this place. Just like gambling and just life and laughter and joy. It seems like they took on a different route. While they still have their own factions who are, vying for power, because that's what people do when you're in a lawless world, it just seemed like a lot of subsets of the society was just like, you know what, the world is already crap. Why do we have to make it crappier? And as somebody who didn't see season 1, so I don't know what that looked like, but just comparing it to The Walking Dead, it just felt like, okay, it's not that bad over here. Like, so if I wanted to like have the world end, I'd rather probably be there than in the US. Honestly, Italy probably was popping. Can we get like a Walking Dead Italia? Like, what's up with that? Why can't we do that? I don't know. But so we're kind of dealing with that. Now, talking about the themes and the arcs and everything like that with these two characters. Carol, like I said, she's focused on getting Daryl home. She's out in the world. She doesn't really have anybody. She's not tethered to anyone except Daryl. And this is a relationship that started the moment that he basically saved her from her husband, from the moment where he was the first person to take up arms to go and try to find her daughter, Sophia. So there's a little bit of like a trauma bond in there, especially because Daryl is also a child of abuse as well. So there's a lot of like trauma bonding and things in there. But what we see a lot in Carol's journey that hasn't let up and that I love that it's still here is the amount of grief that she's experienced, but the world hasn't allowed her a moment to really reflect on everything that's happened in her life. From the moment we met her and her just being like a DV victim, to losing her daughter, to having to like kill people that she knew to survive, to having to kill a child, to have to make very difficult decisions, a lot of times on her own, because she felt she was the only one able to shoulder that burden. And you do that for years and years and years, and then the mind begins to unravel. And we saw that when we had the Whisperers, where she's like mentally like projecting, who was it? What was that lady named? Alpha and stuff like that. Like her mind started to crack. And when you're not addressing those things and you're basically living in solitary confinement, it cracks and cracks and cracks. And so the only thing that she knows that can ground her and that can keep her focused is Daryl. I know a lot of people are asking, you know, why is she going to get Daryl? Like at this point, going to get Daryl is going to get herself. But then we have Daryl, who, when we first met him, family was everything. But then he realized that blood isn't what makes you family. And he had to learn that he was capable of trusting other people and allowing them into the fold, where he can call them brother, sister, niece, nephew, and things like that. I think the only thing he ain't assigned nobody is a child. Daryl said, I ain't got no kids. Don't put that on me. I will babysit. I will watch them. I will baptize them. I am not the pappy, okay? He's not having it. So with that, he's on this mission and you're there, but while you're there, because you're not the same person that you were when your brother was alive, he's able to open himself up and find, or not even find, but make home where he is. And I think this is a really cool thing for Daryl, because it's very easy for him. He's an emotional person, right? He gets into his feelings, he feels things, he hurts, he longs for connection, and he longs for those other things. But Daryl is also somebody, if he gotta go it alone, he's gonna do it. Not because he wants to be that loner the way like Carol kind of does. He's just gonna do it because he knows it'll help save everybody else. But in his heart of hearts, and I blame Rick, and I definitely think this rubbed off on him, is that it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be just you alone. You don't have to continue to have distance between people when at this juncture in life you need people in order to survive. So the best thing that you can do is sharpen your spirit of discernment and sharpen your intuition, so that way you can take in the correct people at the correct time and effectively avoid or eliminate the people that you know are out here vying for power. So then what do you do with that, right? You got Carol looking for him to bring him home, but they're worlds apart, and in his worlds he's trying to create home. So it's like, what are we gonna do when we get here? Will the differences lead to a tug of war? Will it lead to disagreements, fights? Like, what's actually going to happen? Because they don't know what's going on in each other's lives whatsoever. Now, in France, just like the United States, we're dealing with, you know, people trying to have some type of community, trying to build some type of community, but we already know, just like we saw in The Ones Who Live and The World Beyond, and even in the original Walking Dead, people can have the best of intentions when trying to push society forward and do things, but when you feel that you're the intellectual like you have the intellectual prowess over everyone else, a lot of your ideas become ideologies, and then you kind of start operating in like a fascist or dictatorship, where it's like, no, everything I know is right and everybody else needs to fall in line. Even though the messaging is still saying, oh, this is for the good of the people, this is for the greater of the people. The more you get absorbed in your own intellect, the more you get absorbed in your own ideas without even having people around you to be able to challenge those ideas without, you know, getting killed or banished or anything like that, the more you stray away from doing something for the people. We've seen many examples. I tell people online all the time, we can say we like these people, or these people are bad, or these people are good, or this, that, and the third. Bottom line, everybody, including your faves, has killed people. All of them are murderers. Bottom line, hands down. And the other bottom line, and the thing that connects everybody, whether you think they're good or evil or whatever, or whether you don't like their rationale and the reasons behind they did something, it was literally for love. And that's the whole purpose of this whole TWD universe. Not the zombies. Who do you become when there is nothing left? Who do you become? Just because I connect to the fact that Rick killed a whole bunch of people because he loved Michonne and we love that relationship and all this other stuff and they deserve happiness, it doesn't change the fact that he kills people. You know what I mean? And we can sit and argue all day like, oh, it's not the same. Again, rationale is the only thing that really separates who you like and who you don't like. But at the end of the day, everybody had their own idea of how to move forward. And when everybody was moving forward on their own without collaborating, without bringing people of different societies and different backgrounds and things together to the table, everything went to shit. It's never gonna work. The only people behind you are people who think like you, and you can't get change when there's no diversity at the table. It just is what it is. You're never gonna be able to see how the world is gonna get better. So as I was watching all of the episodes, I'm just like, wow, okay, we still have this giant theme here, which I think also shows the connection that it doesn't matter if it's in Europe or if it's in North America or it's in Central America. We're all dealing with the same shit. We're all dealing with the same shit, and we're just trying to find other people who want to live, who accept people for who they are, and want to just have a better world. But how can we do that if in the name of this faction or that faction, we're committing genocide? Like, what are we doing? It doesn't work like that. My overall thoughts on Daryl Dixon, the Book of Carol, I actually enjoyed it. I wasn't sure if I would. I love Daryl and I love Carol, the Lara Croft Pellicer. Like, love both of them. I think that they do very well together. They have such a brother-sister dynamic where it's like, you know, he could pick on her, she could pick on him, but can't nobody mess with them. Like, can't nobody on the outside mess with them. And I really love that relationship. And so having her in this season, I think is a good way to kind of like ground her character as well. But it also challenges him because we already know, like, sometimes Carol will send Daryl into the space that she's in because misery loves company. But I love her little miserable bald head self. Like, I just love it so much. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to everybody else's reaction to it. Again, I was shocked that I liked it, and mainly because I just didn't know what to expect. Like, I don't know, I just felt so out of the loop. But watching it, I was just like, oh, I know exactly what's going on, and I get to like practice my French, and I get to see Daryl like do his thing, I get to see Carol do her thing, and I get to learn some new characters and, you know, watch them at the Comic-Cons and everything like that and all that nerdy stuff. So that's my review. You could take it how you want it. I say give it a chance. It was really good. It was succinct. And I look forward to the next season. Congratulations to Norman Reedus. Congratulations to Melissa McBride and the entire team over at Daryl Dixon, the Book of Carol. I know there's been a lot of promo. I know there's been a lot of different things up and down online. But at the end of the day, y'all are giving us what we want. And it was good TV. So check out Daryl Dixon, Book of Carol, Sunday, September 29th, 10, 9 Central on AMC and AMC Plus. And I will catch y'all in the next video.